Harold Shipment, United Kingdom. In the dark underbelly of crime, there are figures that emerge, capturing the imagination with tales of horror and fear. One such name that has recently surfaced is Harold Shipment, an alleged serial killer who is claimed to be the deadliest in the world. While information about Harold Shipment is shrouded in mystery and lacking verifiable evidence, the allure of his dark legend has ignited curiosity and speculation among true crime enthusiasts. According to unsubstantiated accounts, Harold Shipment is rumored to have carried out a string of meticulously planned murders, pushing the boundaries of human malevolence. Reports suggest that his victims spanned various locations, making it difficult for law enforcement to connect the dots and identify a pattern. Allegedly, Shipment operated under the cover of darkness, leaving no trace and instilling fear in the hearts of communities wherever he struck. Harold Shipment, an enigmatic name that reverberates through the whispers of true crime circles, is said to have operated with ruthless efficiency, leaving a trail of death and despair in his wake. Little is known about his origins or background, further deepening the intrigue surrounding his alleged reign of terror. The sparse details available only add to the mystery and debate surrounding his existence. The legend of Harold Shipment looms large, captivating the minds of those intrigued by tales of the macabre. However, without concrete evidence and reliable sources to substantiate the claims, it is prudent to approach the subject with caution. The allure of a mysterious figure labeled the deadliest killer in the world may perpetuate urban legends and perpetuate the fascination surrounding unsolved crimes. Number 2. Luis Garavito, Colombia. Luis Garavito, known as the Beast, or the Laughing Monster, stands as one of the most chilling and horrifying figures in the history of serial killers. Operating in Colombia during the 1990s, Garavito's unimaginable crimes shocked the world and shed light on the depths of human depravity. With an unprecedented number of victims, he holds the haunting distinction of being one of the deadliest serial killers in the world. Luis Alfredo Garavito Cubillos was born on January 25, 1957 in Colombia. Growing up in an impoverished and abusive environment, Garavito experienced a troubled childhood marked by physical and emotional trauma. These formative years would contribute to the development of his dark and sadistic tendencies. Garavito's crimes were characterized by a disturbing pattern of prolonged torture, where victims would suffer unspeakable acts for extended periods before their eventual demise. His modus operandi included strangulation, stabbing, and dismemberment, leaving a trail of devastation and grief in his wake. Between 1992 and 1999, Luis Garavito embarked on a killing spree that would claim the lives of an estimated 138 young boys, although the actual number may be higher. Garavito targeted vulnerable children, typically between the ages of 6 and 16, often from impoverished backgrounds. He would lure them with promises of gifts, money, or job opportunities, before subjecting them to horrifying acts of sexual assault, torture, and murder. The reign of terror of Luis Garavito came to an end in 1999 when he was apprehended by authorities. His capture was the result of diligent police work and the testimony of a survivor who managed to escape his clutches. Garavito's confession during interrogation revealed the staggering extent of his crimes and sent shockwaves throughout Colombia and the world. Due to his cooperation with authorities and the sheer volume of his crimes, Garavito received a reduced sentence of 22 years in prison. However, he was later charged with additional murders, extending his sentence to the maximum allowed under Colombian law, over 1,008. Number 3. Richard Ramirez, United States. Richard Ramirez was born on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas. As a child, Ramirez exhibited disturbing behaviors, including a fascination with violence and a penchant for cruelty to animals. His early exposure to his cousin's recounting of his experiences during the Vietnam War further contributed to his desensitization to violence. Between June 1984 and August 1985, Ramirez unleashed a reign of terror in the Los Angeles and San Francisco areas. The Night Stalker's victims ranged in age, gender, and socioeconomic background, making his attacks all the more terrifying. His lack of a specific victim profile made it difficult for law enforcement to predict his next move, heightening the sense of fear and paranoia that gripped the communities he targeted. Ramirez employed a variety of weapons during his attacks, including firearms, knives, and blunt objects. His signature was leaving behind satanic symbols or pentagrams at crime scenes, adding an eerie and disturbing element to his atrocities. One of Ramirez's most infamous crimes was the assault on the home of the Kneeling family in Whittier, California, in 1985. He murdered the father, brutally beat the mother, and kidnapped their 6-year-old son. Fortunately, the child managed to escape his clutches, leading to the identification of Ramirez through eyewitness descriptions and recovered evidence. In the annals of criminal history, Few names elicit as much terror and revulsion as Richard Ramirez, better known as burglary, and murder that left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness. While he may not hold the title of the deadliest serial killer in terms of sheer numbers, the sheer brutality and fear he instilled in his victims and the wider public make him one of the most chilling figures in the annals of crime. Number 4. Gary Ridgway, United States. Born on February 18, 1949 in Salt Lake City, Utah, Gary Ridgway's early life appeared unremarkable. However, beneath his seemingly ordinary facade lurked a dark and sadistic nature. Operating mainly in the Seattle-Tacoma area, Ridgway would become known as the Green River Killer, due to his favored disposal site for his victims. Between 1982 and 2001, Gary Ridgway embarked on a horrifying killing spree, targeting vulnerable women, many of whom were involved in prostitution or living on the fringes of society. Ridgway would pick up his victims, often along the Pacific Highway South, and lure them to secluded areas where he would then strangle them. Ridgway's meticulous nature meant that he left few traces, earning him the unsettling ability to remain undetected for many years. As the body count continued to rise, panic and fear gripped the region. In 2001, advancements in DNA technology finally caught up with Gary Ridgway. After being linked to several victims through DNA evidence, Ridgway was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder. In a chilling and calculated move, Ridgway agreed to a plea bargain, providing detailed information about his victims in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. During his trial, Ridgway admitted to killing 49 women, but hinted that the number could be much higher, potentially reaching into the triple digits. His cold and callous demeanor, coupled with the graphic details of his crimes, sent shockwaves through the courtroom and the nation. Number 5. Jeffrey Dahmer, United States. Jeffrey Dahmer, a name synonymous with horror and depravity, ranks among the most infamous serial killers in history. Operating in the United States during the 1980s and early 1990s, Dahmer's chilling crimes shocked the world and left a lasting scar on the collective conscience. With a staggering body count and a disturbing penchant for cannibalism, he earned the haunting title as one of the deadliest serial killer in the world. Between 1978 and 1991, Jeffrey Dahmer embarked on a horrific killing spree, targeting young men and boys. His modus operandi involved luring victims to his apartment under the guise of companionship or sexual encounters. Once inside, he subjected them to unspeakable acts of violence, murder, dismemberment, and necrophilia. Dahmer's crimes were characterized by a chilling level of sadism and brutality. He would often preserve body parts as trophies and engage in acts of cannibalism. His victims suffered unimaginable torture and degradation before meeting their gruesome fate. During his trial, Dahmer confessed to the murders of 17 young men and boys. His chilling admissions shocked the world and forced society to confront the depths of human depravity. In 1992, he was found guilty, but mentally ill, and sentenced to multiple life terms in prison. Jeffrey Dahmer's reign of terror came to an end in 1991, when one of his intended victims managed to escape and alerted the authorities. Upon entering Dahmer's apartment, the police discovered a house of horrors, with photographs, remains, and evidence of his unspeakable acts. Number 6. Andrei Chikatilo, Russia. Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo was born on October 16, 1936, in the Soviet Union. His childhood was marred by the horrors of World War II and the ensuing famine, which left an indelible mark on his psyche. As he grew older, Chikatilo developed deep-seated sexual and sadistic fantasies, driven by feelings of inadequacy and a need for power and control. After a decade of eluding law enforcement, Chikatilo's reign of terror came to an end in 1990. Upon capture, Chikatilo confessed to a staggering 53 murders, although it is widely believed that his actual victim count may be much higher. During his trial, Chikatilo's behavior was disturbingly erratic, ranging from fits of laughter to moments of violent outbursts. His grotesque acts, and the psychological evaluation that followed, shed light on his profound sadism and deep-rooted psychopathy. Number 7. John Wayne Gacy, United States. John Wayne Gacy was born on March 17, 1942, in Chicago, Illinois. He led a seemingly normal life as a successful businessman and active member of his community. However, behind this mask of respectability lay a twisted and sadistic alter ego. John Wayne Gacy, the infamous killer clown, occupies a dark corner in the history of serial killers. Operating in the suburbs of Chicago during the 1970s, Gacy's horrifying crimes shocked the nation and left an indelible mark on the collective psyche. With his charming facade and insidious double life, Gacy earned the chilling distinction of being one of the deadliest serial killers in the world. Between 1972 and 1978, Gacy committed a series of heinous acts that would forever haunt the community. His modus operandi involved strangling his victims, burying their bodies in a crawl space beneath his house, or discarding them in nearby rivers. The exact number of Gacy's victims remains unknown, but the investigation and subsequent excavation of his property revealed the remains of 33 young men and boys. This horrifying revelation shattered the sense of security in the community and sent shockwaves throughout the nation. In 1980, Gacy was convicted of multiple counts of murder and sentenced to death. His execution, carried out by lethal injection, occurred. Number 8. Aileen Wuornos, United States. Born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan, Aileen Wuornos had a tumultuous upbringing. Her early life was marked by abuse, neglect, and a series of unfortunate events, which would eventually shape her troubled path. Aileen Wuornos is a name that reverberates through the annals of true crime history. Known as the highway serial killer, Wuornos shocked the world with her trail of brutal murders committed along the highways of Florida in the late 1980s. Although her victim count was relatively low compared to some other infamous serial killers, the chilling nature of her crimes and the psychological turmoil she endured make her a captivating and tragic figure. Between 1989 and 1990, Wuornos embarked on a deadly spree, targeting men whom she believed posed a threat to her safety or whom she deemed deserving of punishment. Her method involved luring victims into compromising situations before shooting them at close range. Wuornos's victims were typically men she encountered while working as a sex worker along the highways of Florida. Her actions struck fear into the hearts of those traversing the roads, with reports of a mysterious and dangerous killer on the loose capturing media attention. During her trial, Wuornos's volatile personality and the disturbing details of her crimes captured the nation's attention. She was found guilty of multiple murders and sentenced to death, eventually meeting her fate through lethal injection on October 9, 2002. Number 9. Dennis Rader, United States. Dennis Rader, infamously known as the BTK Killer, ranks among the most terrifying figures in the annals of true crime. Operating in Wichita, Kansas, between the 1970s and 1990s, Rader's heinous acts of violence and manipulation left a community gripped with fear. With a calculated and sadistic nature, he earned the title of one of the deadliest serial killers in history. Dennis Lynn Rader was born on March 9, 1945, in Pittsburgh, Kansas. For many years, he lived an outwardly normal life, working as a compliance officer and blending into society. However, beneath this facade, a darkness lurked within Rader, driven by twisted fantasies of control and domination. Between 1974 and 1991, Dennis Rader embarked on a horrifying killing spree, claiming 10 victims in Wichita. His moniker, BTK, stood for Bind, Torture, Kill, reflecting the sadistic methods he employed to terrorize his victims. The calculated nature of Rader's crimes was evident in his sinister taunting of the media and law enforcement. He sent letters and communicated with the press, reveling in the fear and notoriety his actions garnered. In 2004, over 30 years after his first murder, Rader was linked to the crimes through DNA evidence obtained from a discarded item. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. His shocking admissions and graphic descriptions of his crimes sent shockwaves through the courtroom. The families of the victims faced the man who had haunted their lives, revealing the extent of the horror he had inflicted upon their loved ones. Number 10. Ted Bundy, United States. Theodore Robert Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. His outward appearance and charming demeanor allowed him to blend seamlessly into society, making him all the more dangerous. Bundy possessed an uncanny ability to manipulate those around him, luring unsuspecting women to their tragic fates. Bundy's ability to charm and manipulate allowed him to evade suspicion for an extended period. He would often change his appearance, using disguises and aliases to maintain his anonymity and continue his reign of terror. Bundy's luck eventually ran out in 1978 when he was arrested for a traffic violation. Suspicion began to mount, and evidence linking him to multiple disappearances and murders started to emerge. Bundy's subsequent capture and legal proceedings exposed the full extent of his monstrous deeds. Ted Bundy, a name that sends chills down the spine, stands as one of the most infamous and horrifying figures in the history of serial killers. Operating in the United States during the 1970s, Bundy's cunning and charismatic persona masked his insatiable hunger for violence and murder. With a shocking number of victims and an ability to elude capture for years, Bundy is widely regarded as one of the deadliest serial killers in the world. Between 1974 and 1978, Ted Bundy embarked on a cross-country killing spree, targeting young women. His modus operandi involved feigning injuries or asking for assistance to lure victims into his car. Once in his control, Bundy subjected them to brutal acts of violence, often involving sexual assault, torture, and murder. His preference for necrophilia added an additional layer of horror to his already depraved crimes. During his trial, Bundy acted as his own defense attorney, showcasing his charisma and intelligence. His ability to manipulate the courtroom and maintain an air of innocence left a lasting impact on those who witnessed the proceedings. Ultimately, Bundy was found guilty of multiple murders and sentenced to death.